On nights when the rain drowns the streets, a woman carries a paper lantern that never flickers. Her shadow twists against the walls, moving before her steps. Those who follow in curiosity vanish in alleys that bend unnaturally, their screams swallowed by the glow of a lantern that leads nowhere but silence. Old tatami mats hold more than dust. Some breathe, rising and falling as though lungs beat beneath them. Travelers who dare sleep on such floors wake to fingers gripping their ankles, nails sinking deep. The sound is never screaming, only whispered pleas from under the straw, asking to be remembered before pulling the living down into darkness. In mirrors untouched for decades, brides dressed in white kimono still wait. Their reflections smile before their lips move, eyes opening wider than any human gaze should. Once the mirror claims recognition, it will not release you. Your reflection lingers longer each glance, until one night you move, and the glass refuses to follow. These are not mere stories, whispered in passing. They are warnings carved into the silence of Japan's forgotten nights. Spirits endure because fear gives them breath, haunting lanterns, floors, and mirrors. They demand respect, and when ignored, they collect what was promised. Tonight, 3 tales resurface, carrying echoes no prayer can silence. Legends endure because victims never return. Only silence remains, heavy and suffocating, proof of truths too dangerous to dismiss. These spirits do not rest, and those who cross them are not granted mercy. What you are about to hear is no entertainment, it is a descent into shadows you were never meant to meet. This is Echoes of the East. If fear still lingers after these stories, then you have heard them correctly. Subscribe, and let the darkness know where you are watching from, if you dare, because once you know these spirits, they will know you too. And knowing is always the first step to being found. In narrow alleys of Kyoto, where rainwater flows like veins across the stone, whispers tell of a woman carrying a paper lantern. Its flame never sways with the wind, glowing too steadily for the storm. Those who see her claim her shadow moves differently, stretching ahead of her steps, twisting unnaturally against the walls. She is said to appear only when the night itself feels heavier than air. Travelers describe the lantern's glow as strangely inviting, a warm light in streets otherwise drowned in darkness. Yet the closer one walks, the more the lantern seems distant, never quite within reach. The woman's figure remains shrouded, her face hidden beneath the lantern's soft glow. Locals insist that following her is never a choice, it is compulsion, a silent pull leading deeper into alleys few dare enter. Stories say she never speaks. Her presence is marked only by the faint creak of the lantern's handle swaying, though the flame never flickers. Some believe she leads the lost to safety, but most warn that those who follow her vanish without trace. Days later, belongings are found in gutters, umbrellas, shoes, sometimes even coats, yet their owners remain missing, swallowed by streets no longer familiar. A merchant once told of chasing her light after a night of heavy drinking. He swore the alley stretched endlessly, twisting in ways impossible. Doors he knew vanished, windows sealed themselves, and the rain above felt muted, like being trapped underwater. He followed until the lantern finally stopped. When he leaned forward to see her face, the lantern snapped shut, plunging everything into suffocating darkness. The merchant stumbled back, panicked, clawing against walls that suddenly felt slick, like skin stretched tight. He heard whispers, countless voices murmuring in unison, each word incomprehensible, yet heavy with urgency. His screams echoed, but the alley absorbed them. Somehow, he awoke the next morning collapsed in a gutter, clothes drenched, lungs burning. He never found that alley again, but he swore the shadow still follows him. Fishermen claim her origin lies with a bride drowned on her wedding night. Betrayed, she wandered in storm and sorrow until the lantern she carried was extinguished by rain. In rage, her spirit reignited it with something unnatural, a flame born from hatred. Now, she walks with that light, forever searching for witnesses to her final steps, drawing others into the same endless wandering. Others whisper a darker tale. She is no victim, but a guide of punishment. Those who cross her path have already been chosen. The lantern is not light, but a lure, the glow of judgment. Her shadow, moving before her steps, is not her own, but the outline of the next soul she will take. When it matches perfectly, the living body is emptied, leaving only silence. What unsettles survivors most is the silence she carries. No footsteps echo, no breath escapes her form. The rain itself quiets when she approaches, as though the world holds itself still. Witnesses speak of the unbearable pressure in the chest, like lungs refusing air. For many, it is not her disappearance that terrifies, but the realization that she listens longer than she shows herself. One old priest recounted a ritual to ward her off. Turn your back and close your eyes, never looking again at the lantern. Yet even he admitted failure. The sound of water dripping continued long after his prayer, and when he finally dared to glance, the alley was gone. Only the faint smell of burnt paper lingered, as though the lantern had brushed his skin. Some alleys in Kyoto remain avoided to this day, abandoned despite being part of the city. Residents insist those paths are cursed, for the lantern has been seen hanging in midair, swaying gently without bearer. The moment someone blinks, the woman stands beneath it, faceless, waiting. Her presence is never violent, never sudden. It is patience that makes her unbearable, her silence heavy as stone. Tourists, unaware of the warnings, often laugh when told of the lantern woman. Yet photographs tell another story. In images of rainy nights, the lantern appears faintly in the background, glowing with unnatural clarity. When examined closely, reflections and puddles reveal a face the camera never caught, pale, with lips stretched wide, swallowing the flame whole. Some tourists vanish days later, last seen chasing the light. The police dismiss such accounts as superstition, but reports of missing persons cluster around the same narrow districts. Locals know better. They leave offerings of incense and salt at street corners, never daring to look directly at the lantern's glow. Fear has become tradition, a silent acknowledgement that the streets do not belong entirely to the living after nightfall. The lantern woman is not feared for violence, but inevitability. Once seen, she is remembered, and once remembered, she follows. Shadows lengthen strangely, lamps flicker too long. Reflections and puddles hold her shape even when the street is empty. Survivors whisper that she lingers at the edge of memory, waiting patiently for the moment curiosity or weakness leads you to follow. They say you cannot outrun her light. Rain hides her, shadows feed her, and silence protects her. Those who vanish leave only belongings, their final proof, scattered like breadcrumbs into nothing. The lantern woman does not hunt you, find her, and when you do, she will lead you deeper into alleys that never existed until the lantern goes out and you are gone. In the older ryokans of Japan, guests whisper of tatami floors that breathe. At first, it seems like drafts beneath the wood, the subtle rise and fall of straw mats, shifting with time. Yet when one lies down to sleep, the movement grows stronger, pulsing as though lungs beat below. It feels less like a house settling, and more like something alive waiting underneath. A traveling merchant once spent the night in such a room, ignoring the locals' warnings. As he lay on the futon, he felt the floor shudder faintly, then press upward against his back. At first, he thought it was his imagination, but when a cold draft circled his ankles, he swore something beneath the mat exhaled, brushing his skin with a breath colder than winter air. The merchant tried to steady his nerves, whispering a prayer, but silence thickened around him. Then came a faint knock from under the floor, 3 gentle taps, deliberate and spaced. His heartbeat stuttered as he realized it was not random. Each knock echoed in rhythm with his breath, as though something beneath the tatami mimicked his lungs, learning how to inhale and exhale alongside him. He considered leaving, but the moment he sat upright, the futon shifted violently, sinking downward. It was as if the straw had collapsed into a hollow body below. Before he could move, something icy clutched his ankle, fingers tightening. He screamed, pulling back, but the grip was impossibly strong, dragging him toward the floor. The tatami sagged, creaking as if swallowing him whole. Somehow, he escaped, bursting into the hall. Other guests awoke to his cries, yet when they entered the room, the tatami appeared untouched, lying flat and firm. The futon was neatly folded, his belongings set in place. The only trace was his ankle red with the mark of fingers burned deep into his skin, proving he had not dreamed what waited underneath. Locals insist these floors are not accidents, but graves. In centuries past, during famine, bodies were hidden beneath homes, covered in straw mats to keep shame from neighbors. Spirits buried this way never rose to rest. Instead, they breathed through the tatami, searching for warmth. To lie upon them is to offer your body as the next layer, becoming part of the floor's memory. Priests warn travelers to check the seams of tatami carefully. If straw edges rise and fall on their own, the floor has already chosen. Some say the only defense is to remain awake, never letting the futon settle entirely. Yet even wakefulness offers little. The whispers beneath the mats grow louder at night, pressing thoughts into the skull that do not belong to the living. A woman from Nagoya once described her stay in such a room. She claimed to hear crying beneath the floor, muffled sobs that echoed like a child hidden in fear. Though she tried to remain awake, exhaustion overtook her. She dreamt of hands reaching upward, dozens of them, pale and trembling. When she woke, her pillow was damp, as though tears had seeped through the tatami. In the morning, she reported her experience, but the innkeeper grew pale and refused to comment. That night, she vanished without a trace. Guests said her futon was perfectly laid, the sheets unwrinkled, but the tatami beneath seemed swollen, bulging slightly. When priests finally lifted the mats, they found nothing but hollow earth except for a single hairpin, bent and broken, glinting faintly in the dirt. The legend deepened as more travelers disappeared. Some rooms were sealed, their doors nailed shut, yet rumors say the breathing never stopped. Guests walking past late at night claimed to hear faint exhalations through the wood, rhythmic and patient. The ryokans became avoided, left to decay, but even abandoned. Their floors pulse when the moon hangs low, as though reminding the earth what lies inside. Scholars argue these tales represent guilt buried during Japan's harshest eras. But locals insist guilt does not pull at ankles, nor leave bruises shaped like fingers. They believe the spirits remain conscious, aching with hunger for warmth. To rest upon such tatami is not to find sleep, but to lend your breath, feeding lungs that should have rotted centuries ago, but still inhale beneath the floor. A priest once attempted an exorcism, scattering salt and reciting sutras over the mats. Witnesses said the tatami bulged, straining against the seams, and something knocked violently from below, shaking the floorboards. The chanting faltered, and the priest collapsed, coughing black water from his lungs. When he awoke, he had forgotten the ritual entirely, muttering only one phrase, "They will breathe through me." Now, wanderers are warned, never sleep where the tatami moves. The floor is not empty, and the futon is not safety. If you feel breath on your ankles, or hear knocking beneath your lungs, you are already chosen. Once chosen, there is no escape. The sleeper below waits patiently, whispering your name until you finally return to the floor and join them forever. The legend of the sleeper beneath the tatami is not about haunting, it is about replacement. For every body that vanishes, the mats lie flatter, the seams tighter, until nothing seems amiss. Only the faint smell of damp earth remains, rising in waves through the room. And when night falls again, the floor breathes, waiting, for tatami always remembers the weight of those who rest. Long ago, Brides were made to stand before polished mirrors in silent chambers, proving purity before marriage. In one village, a bride refused, cursing her reflection. The mirror cracked, yet her image smiled still, moving without her. They say she vanished before the wedding, swallowed into glass. Since then, mirrors and abandoned inns show brides waiting, lips curving too soon, eyes that never blink away. Travelers who lodge in forgotten ryokans claim strange reflections. At first, it is subtle. The mirror feels heavier, like eyes pressing from behind the glass. Then, as they dress, their reflection begins to move a heartbeat too early. Smiles spread before lips twitch, eyes widen before thought. The delay is reversed, and once noticed, the reflection never returns to silence it, begins living on its own. A schoolteacher once described seeing the mirror bride during a trip to the mountains. Preparing to leave his room, he caught a glimpse of a woman in white kimono behind him. When he turned, nothing was there. But the reflection lingered pale, with lips stretched unnaturally wide. He swore her mouth moved, whispering his name, though no sound reached his ears. That night, he disappeared. Guests who survived tell of reflections watching them sleep. In candlelight, the mirror flickers faintly, showing figures standing over futons, faces half hidden by bridal veils. Some wake to find the veil on their pillow, damp with condensation from the glass. They insist they never placed it there. The reflection, however, always shows them wearing it, even as their own trembling hands clutch nothing at all. Locals say the mirror bride punishes hesitation. To doubt love, to resist fate, is to insult her eternal wedding. Now, she seeks new guests to replace the groom who abandoned her. Those who meet her eyes in the mirror feel their bodies stiffen, their pulse slow. When the reflection finally smiles, the body no longer breathes. The glass swallows quietly, leaving nothing but dust. In one abandoned ryokan, villagers avoid the bridal suite entirely. The mirror inside is covered with black cloth, yet every storm strips it bare. Those who recover it claim to feel a hand press theirs from the other side, cold and damp, desperate to remove the veil again. The cloth grows soaked, though the mirror surface remains dry, gleaming faintly in moonlight like waiting eyes. Folklore says a simple ritual can protect wanderers. Bow before the mirror and refuse to meet its gaze. But failure is common. In nervous glances, people catch the reflection smiling before they bow, claiming the promise already broken. They beg forgiveness, but the glass does not release them. The mirror bride accepts no hesitation, only obedience, and only if her face remains unseen entirely. A Kyoto scholar once attempted to debunk the legend, staying 3 nights in a cursed ryokan. On the second night, neighbors heard frantic banging. When they entered, the mirror stood fractured, and the scholar was gone. His journal remained open, the final line smeared with ink. She moved before I did. No body was found, though the glass reflected a figure lingering too long. Villagers whisper that the bride's veil is not fabric but shadow, woven from countless brides swallowed before her. When lifted in reflections, the face beneath is not always the same. Sometimes it is your own, pale and twisted, smiling through a mouth that feels wider than your skin could stretch. Those who see themselves wearing her veil are never found again, claimed without struggle. What terrifies most is the persistence. After glimpsing her once, mirrors refuse to behave. Reflections twitch early, eyes dart ahead of thought. Survivors speak of glass surfaces warping, showing them sleeping when awake, blinking when still. Even water in basins reflects too eagerly, the surface trembling like lips laughing. She follows through every shimmer, waiting until your reflection betrays that you are already hers. A monk once attempted to seal such mirrors by smashing them. The shards, however, reflected the bride in pieces, her eye in one fragment, her mouth in another, all smiling in unison. As he swept them away, he saw his own body absent from the reflection entirely. Days later, he was gone, his robes folded neatly beside broken glass that gleamed without light. The mirror bride is not bound by walls. Even in cities, reflective windows sometimes flicker with veils. Strangers claim to see brides standing behind commuters in crowded trains, yet no one else notices. When they glance away, the reflection lingers, smiling faintly, until the train plunges into darkness. Lights return, and the commuter is missing, their reflection now standing in the bride's silent procession. Priests warn to never accept gifts left before mirrors, combs, veils, rings. They are said to be offerings of brides lost within. Accepting them binds you to her procession, your reflection shifting closer each day. Soon, you notice the smile comes too easily, the hands in glass twitch before yours, and finally, one night, you see yourself vanish entirely into her wedding ceremony. The mirror bride is not legend for survival, but for inevitability. Once seen, she is remembered. Once remembered, she reflects. The veil appears in dreams, the smile in puddles, the gaze in your own weary eyes. When at last you stand before a mirror and it moves too soon. Know this, the wedding has begun, and your place beside her is already waiting. These spirits endure because memory itself feeds them. The lantern woman's glow still lingers in empty alleys. The sleeper breathes beneath forgotten floors, and the mirror bride smiles through every reflection. They are not bound by temples or shrines, but by the act of telling. Every whisper, every story, is another thread tying them tighter to the living world, ensuring their presence never fades. What unsettles most is the silence between encounters. Long stretches of ordinary days lull victims into believing they are safe. Then, a lantern flickers in rain, a tatami shifts faintly underfoot, or a reflection blinks too soon. Legends wait patiently, striking only when forgotten. Fear is not the punishment, it is the warning. What follows afterward belongs to them alone, beyond the reach of prayer. So when you walk deserted streets, step carefully into old ryokans, or glance into aging mirrors. Remember these warnings. Shadows are not empty, floors are not still, and glass never lies. The legends you heard tonight are not inventions, but invitations. And if you feel them near, it is already too late. Some doors once opened cannot be closed. Some spirits, once known, never leave.